Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak Extra. And right now, we are going to take a look at the front pages of the national dailies, read through and also comment on what is happening. And as usual, we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper. So Daily Trust Saturday front page carries the major story, TED Fund interventions, VCs, Rectors, Provosts lament extortion by reps. The riders are saying lawmakers usurping tertiary institutions council's powers. And also standing committee chair, House spokesperson Mama. Now, there's been a lot of, controversial situations happening with VCs, rectors, provosts, also having issues with the National Assembly. And, now TED Fund is saying that they are going to do intervention. We hope that it pans out well. The most or the least that we expect is for our education system not to collapse. And there's been a lot of crisis. Let's not forget there is the ASU with the government, the federal government. So we don't need more of, personal situations happening in the education system. Now, there is investigation by the Daily Trust newspaper, gory tales from FCT abattoirs. Now, there's been a lot, and if you've grown, there's been a lot of situations of what is, or stories or myth of what's happening in the abattoirs, where there's you get your own meat, a different kind of meat from. So, Daily Trust did an investigation, and you'd find the details of that on page 22 and 23. Quite an elaborate segment there. We have the diplomatic. Nigeria has no reason importing food. You'll find that on page 10. Well, we all agree with that. I mean, the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, tried in agriculture, but it didn't work. I think maybe there was a hasty decision without necessary plan, being put in place to make that possible. And let's not forget also, there was our own part of it's all about hoarding. That hoarding has eaten us deep like a cancerous disease, and that is something that this current administration is working on currently in order to avoid that kind of situation. Importation, it's always taking us step back, considering we have the soil for planting and producing a lot of fruits, and insecurity also affected our situation. So we hope that at least they can hear from experts, giving them the tips of what to do. You find that on page 10. There's a feature, Cancer Health Fund, patients, survivors decry challenges. You find that sad, heartbreaking situation on page 8. I mean, if you just have to have someone that knows someone who is suffering from cancer for you to be able to just appreciate life, because as long as you're healthy, then you don't have much problem, honestly. Besides that, we have Super Eagles' fourth title in final showdown with the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire. You find that on page 19. Well, we hope, the Super Eagles will carry this one. They've put so much effort on AFCON this year. Economic hardship, youth stage protests in Osun State. Yesterday we saw how leaders or people coming out to say that there shouldn't be protest. Protest never leads to anything good. But we're hoping that, some little gestures would call the federal government and state government to put in the work in order for us to avert this hardship crisis going on in our economy. So below the headlines, we have the entertainment segment that says reactions trail Nigeria's loss at 66th Grammy Awards. You find that on page 13. Now, I don't know if we might come back to this when it comes to entertainment stories, but then this reaction is hilarious. If there is one thing we know Nigerians for, is how they drag anybody that does not appreciate Nigerians. And sometimes we might not even appreciate our own, but then we still do not want other people to not appreciate them. It's like the sibling rivalry happening between Nigeria and Ghana, where you'd see Nigeria can drag Ghana, but then come to Ghana's defense if someone else is dragging them. So Nigerians went all in on the Academy Awards, dragging it for not giving any of a Nigerian artist award. But then one thing is the same category that Davido was in with Tyler of South Africa of Water. It's not, we know Afrobeat is amazing, but it was like a global sensation. Water took a global view. Everybody was listening to her. So honestly, even though we know that our own celebrities, our own musicians are doing amazing, and there is no doubt, on a normal level, yes, Tyler will not come close to our celebrities, but then her song was what got her an award because it was global. So please, let's just give credit to whom credit is due. Now, these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust Saturday this morning. You can get more stories when you pick a copy of that. Now, moving on to the Nation newspaper this morning. From the top of the page there, you will see Tinubu signs Electricity Act Amendment Bill into law and host communities to get 5% of the GenCo's annual operating expenditures. NERC to deduct 10.5 billion naira from the discos for over billion estimated customers. You find the details on this Electricity Act amendment to see if it truly favors the nation, which we know it would, considering it's the president, making this decision. You find that on page 5. You need to read that to understand more about the electricity, bill that is going on in our country. Besides that, we have government may shut borders to address food shortage, says a minister. I mean, we've been going back and forth on this shutting of border, then opening it, then shutting it up again. I think there shouldn't be a hasty decision until everything is put in place for that. Shutting of borders can help. We've seen Japan, do those things, and it worked for them. So we hope that we'll be able to do that. You find that on page 30. Now, the major story on The Nation says banks now free to fix forex rates. That's according to CBN. Another back and forth again, making decision and going back on that. The writers are saying World Remit, Western Union and others now to pay in Naira. Okay. Cardoso, Nigeria attracted over $1 billion inflows in 2 weeks, says reforms yielding positive result and no more loans to federal government until outstanding is paid. You find all this on page 4. Now, the CBN and all, financial institutions are trying to work together with the federal government, of course, in order to take us to make the Naira more valuable. So we hope that this new steps that is being taken would favor the Naira. We have AFCON tragedy. Late deputy boss wasn't football fanatic, says colleague. Says his death was an act of God. Anambra community in shock, pains over death of billionaire son. And 5th man dies watching AFCON semi-final. That is a really sad, tragic situation. Like I say, it's a mixed feeling for Nigerians. And yes, if there is one thing we always believe in, Nigeria, when it comes to, it's our faith. When something happens, we'll be like, yes, it's already meant to happen, haka Allah, so as the House of People would say it. So yeah, definitely people would always make assumptions, heart attack and all that, but we know excitement is something that comes in 2 ways. It can be really overwhelming for the body. So it was a really sad situation, but people are clarifying it's just an act. It's just God, it's not like that person was really into it, to that point that would lead him to his death. We have EFCC declares Emefiele's wife and 3 others wanted. That's a scary situation. I mean, if there's anything about paying for being someone's wife, this is it. You'll find that on page 30. Ministry NDDC to produce regional plan for Niger Delta. That's according to Minister. You'll find that on page 6. Entertainment segment says, Etinosa Idemudia, motherhood has taught me patience. I mean, that is absolutely true. There is nothing like motherhood to teach you how to tolerate. I mean, you would realize if you can tolerate, kids, then you can tolerate anything in the world. Now, moving on from The Nation, we'll move to Saturday Punch. Below the headmaster, it says, how I wooed my wife with chocolate in 1966. 19-year-old physics professor is saying, I mean, that was when romance was really romance. So it's going to be 14th February soon. We hope that people would appreciate little gestures. It's all about the gesture for the people way back, not overspending. You appreciate what your significant other would be able to provide for you, no matter how little it is. I mean, there's been a debate of men saying women don't give them anything but boxers and singlets. So it's all about the gesture. Sometimes you give your loved one just a bit of sweets. You might come back from work and give somebody something like that, and that person would always remember that you were passing somewhere and you saw something and thought of them. It's little gestures matters. Different strokes. Sex-starved Rivers women take to the streets. Hunger ravaged the Niger residents. Also protest food scarcity. All right, you find that on page 28 and 29. Lead story, EFCC declares Emefele's wife and 3 others wanted. Commission accuses ex-CBN governor's wife and others of money laundering and economic sabotage. You find that on page 9. Abductors collected fried rice, chicken before releasing Ekiti pupils and others. That's according to teacher's husband. It's just about the hunger. Sad situation. Keep away your hypertensive husband from AFCON final. That's according to expert cardiologists. You find that on page 24. Co-workers attempt to rape mom caused her death. Ondo-based musician is saying that's a horrible situation. Nurses plant shut down as federal government moves to slow down Japa. How can we slow it down? I mean, some people came and defended it that they will be remitting money to the federal government account, but then, Japa is also affecting our health sector. So it would be unsafe to say we care about more money than the health of our own citizens. It's taking us 3 steps backwards, and we hope that something is done, make the environment, make the economy favorable, and people will not want to go somewhere else. I mean, no matter what, home is home. We have entertainment saying, I have learned to be cautious, says Mona Lisa. If you know Mona Lisa, she is really controversial when it comes to speaking her mind on podcasts going on there. All right, let's move to Saturday Vanguard. From the top of the page of the Saturday Vanguard there, it says, housing for the poor suffers setbacks as dollarization hits real estate sectors. There is riders there, of course. So if you want to hear more about the housing situation, which everyone has been suffering from Lagos to Abuja, Port Harcourt, we're talking about the major cities in the nation, in the capital, in Nigeria rather, and of course other places where even when it comes to real estate, I think I saw a video on social media of an actress lamenting of a parking space of a house, and she was going crazy and saying, and now they would charge you for a tons of million naira for that, and your car cannot even enter. So there's a lot of that. You get details on that. Knowledge is strength. That you find that on page 9. Enugu cattle market where criminals thrive in broad daylight. You find that also on the Saturday Vanguard. Power outage. Our husbands no longer make love to us at night. That's according to the River women that were lamenting. I wonder how power is the cause of that issue. Major story on the Vanguard. AFCON final. Rufai Yobo send words to Super Eagles. What to expect, how to overcome Ivory Coast. I mean, that is amazing. if there is one thing we know, is always to have a mentor, in life, in every stage. And one of the joy that I was, experiencing while peeping, because I know I was going to have headache watching AFCON, so I did not. The semi-finals, I was just popping in, checking on my spouse to make sure he's fine with the hyper, BP of what was happening. But then one thing I loved was seeing Ahmed Musa there, cheering them on, leading them, telling them what to do. So having also another legend in football, Yobo Rufai, also giving them, words of encouragement and what and how to do based on experience. It's amazing. We hope that Nigeria bring the cup home. Below that, we have crude oil theft, how oil barons use a vessel and captains, crew members as guinea pigs. Such situation there you find on page 13. Reduce your appetite for dollar foreign goods. CBN governor tells Nigerians, says that CBN, of course, would try and make everything work for the economy. You'll find that on page 7. One way you can make Nigerians reduce their thirst for foreign things and dollar would making our economy stronger. I know a lot of people who would not want to go somewhere where someone would definitely look at them and say, oh, you're not from here. They would rather stay way back home. But then we have to fix our economy for that to happen. Nancy Nsime, a Nollywood star, offers herself to 1 billion. Okay, that's quite a funny situation. I've seen a lot of people saying, I'm going to marry him, but that's how how appreciative Nigerians are for the Super Eagles this season. They did a lot of amazing work, and we hope that they bring, the cup home. Now, these are the stories that you can find on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. All right, next, let's move to the Guardian newspaper this morning. Below the headmask, or let's start with the major story there that says CBN governor blames Nigerians for weak naira. Okay, so we are shifting the blaming game of us having to curb our own thirst for foreign goods. You find that on page 2. Ministry clarifies Tinubu's directive on release of grains from reserve. You find that on page 3. Discourse to pay consumers 10.5 billion naira over estimated billing. Page 3 also. NDDC shifting from transaction to transformation, says Ogbuku. Navy intercepts material for illegal refineries construction and arrest 3. You find that on page 29. Now, Nigerians would always do things differently. We're working on getting the legal refineries that would benefit the economy, and other selfish people are working on, constructing their own refineries, which would definitely be used to refine stolen crude oil, and it will now crumble our economy more. So, of course, we give Navy kudos, for that interception, and we hope that these people are always brought to book for us to make our country great again. Below the headmask, we have Saturday special. It says how inefficient system and poor investigations are the responsible for delay in providing justice to inmates. You find that on page 24 and 25. Guardian Woman, which is a normal thing here, says there is a lot of marginalization when it comes to women's health. You'll find that on, of course, on page 15, and Chioma Wankama Akono is saying this, saying there's a lot of marginalization when it comes to women's health. There's been a lot of debate on that back and forth, but then, we would have to, read on that to get more insight on why she said that. Now, these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's take a look at the This Day newspaper there. At the top of the page, Tinubu signs Electricity Act Amendment Bill into law. Regulation mandates GenCos to vote 5% of their annual expenditure for host communities development. Makinde signs Oyo Electricity Regulatory Commission bill into law. So it's not just the federal government making decision. Some states have started making their own decision as well. After strike threat, federal government moves to pacify labor and says implementation of MOU in progress. Well, that is a good thing. At least now they're hearing from the federal government. It's just like our guest, our newspaper reviewer, Malam Nuruddin Abdullah, yesterday mentioned that if there is any situation, we know sometimes an agreement can be made, but then in future something happens. So if something is changing, you call these people again back to the table to alert them on the changes, and if you can, make things work moving forward. Below the headmask, we have Obuku, NDDC now focused on Niger Delta transformation. You find that on page 5. Find lasting solution to insecurity hardship. Can Anglican Church, Yoruba leaders tell the federal government? Oni also calls for location of a military base in Ekiti to stop the menace. Joins calls for creating of state police. I mean, there's been a lot of, talking about the state police when it comes to insecurity happening in the country. Before, we're experiencing a lot of kidnapping in the northern parts of Nigeria, but right now it's heading to the southwest. Ekiti has been suffering from that back to back, and we hope that, of course, right decisions will be taken, considering we've seen a lot of religious leaders coming out to call them. And we all know how we respect our religious leaders. So we hope the federal government will listen, state government, and, individuals in general. So Forex market records a $1.83 billion turnover in 1 week amid reforms. This is the major story on this day newspaper. Cardoso urges Nigerians to moderate appetite for dollar and patronize local services. But how many local services do we have? Says Apex Bank has resolved to end waste and means financing. CBN removes cap on interbank FX transactions. Urging federal government to resume social intervention scheme to reduce hardship. A lot of moves been made by the CBN that we hope they will be able to, of course, deliver. Now, these are some of the stories on this day newspaper. All right, so let's move to the Tribune. Major story on Saturday Tribune. Tinubu's ministers blame food shortage on Naira devaluation, fuel subsidy withdrawal. Agric Minister, farm produce smuggled to neighboring countries. Budget Minister, high cost of petrol affecting farming. No magic wand to stabilize Naira, that's according to the CBN. Youths protest hardship, insecurity in Oshun. You see that on page 10. My wife walked out of our marriage, returned with another man's pregnancy, about a man tells court. Anglican Church decries worsening insecurity, economic hardship. CBN has ordered foreign remittance to be paid in Naira. That's according to banks. Okay, a great move there. I mean, that would make the Naira at least a bit, it would rise up instead of, dollar. Lecturers saw me as source of inspiration. Classmates called me Daddy. Okay, that's according to FK Sani, 60-year-old UI's first-class sociology graduate. Okay, that's a great one. He started school a bit late and, got motivation on the way from classmates and his lecturers. So below the headmask, we have Adeleke, Aregbeshola, Oba Abolarin. Others make case for promotion of Yoruba language. Yes, please, let's do that. Honor non-Nigerian Professor Afolayan to book launch in Ile-Ife. I mean, let's go back to our dialects. Languages are beautiful, and we don't know the power of what we have until we lose it. Oil to self-generate, transit, distribute electricity as Makinde signs bill. Now, these are some of the stories on Saturday Tribune. And with that, of course, we have to put a stop on the newspaper segment. I am joined late by my co-anchor, Fatima, who, of course, I've missed a lot, but it's good to have you. So what? Joined late. Yeah. What? No, I know what happened, but then it's good to have you join.
You have no idea what I went through this early morning. With the weather, it's terrible. I feel like I'm going to have.
Okay, all right. So I mean, right now we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to hear more from Fatima. So yes, when we come back, of course, it will be time to get to hear from you. Talking about what is happening in our society, something that is really eating us deep. So please do not go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.